Now that this has happened, where does it go?
Yeah, so we wanted to give some wind in the sails of our colleagues in the Senate who are eager to do something on this issue. The Republicans who voted in favor of this just a few moments ago here in Washington know a few things. We know that there are cracks in the foundation of the Affordable Care Act. We know that 1 in 3 claims are denied. We know that premiums have risen 60% more than inflation since its inception. And we know that the insurance companies are making $1 gazillion. Nevertheless, a lot of our constituents rely on these subsidies. And doing nothing, we knew, was not an option. So we wanted to, and we explored several different options before Christmas. Unfortunately, a number of them were blocked by our Rules Committee. And this was the only option available to us, was to pass this 3-year extension, which we understand is dead in arrival in the Senate. But we expect the Senate to instead use this as an impetus to have probably a 2-year extension with some income caps and some fraud protections and some other reforms that Obamacare desperately needs.
Okay, so this is interesting because this is, I guess, a little bit of how the sausage is made, right? This bill is not likely to become law, but there is a companion bill, if we can call it that, in the Senate that looks a bit different, a 2-year extension with some eligibility requirements, minimum income requirements, maximum cutoff. Is that something that Democrats will be able to talk to Republicans about and codify into a final bill?
I think so. I think especially in the Problem Solvers Caucus, there's a large understanding that there needs to be some compromise. Democrats are quite keen on just extending the credits, and Republicans are quite keen on having some reforms, revisions, especially related to fraud. The Senate bill that's coming to fruition soon will probably have a hybrid mix of both, which will enable it likely and hopefully to get the 60 votes in the Senate, and it comes back to the House and will likely get the 218. That's the best path for both the short and long term of the Affordable Care Act.
So as a Republican here, and you hear what the president's rhetoric is, forget Obamacare, scrap it and give the money directly to people. There's been a real allergy to extending some of these subsidies for many, if not most, members of your Republican House conference. So do you feel like you're on an island or a trailblazer on this issue?
No, I heard differently from the president when he was with the House Republican Conference on Monday. What I heard from him, I heard him say, be practical, be reasonable, offer solutions, give the money directly to the people, but there is fraud, waste, and abuse in the system, and tackle that. That's what I heard. Everybody hears their own different thing, but that's what I heard.
But give it directly to people does not extend the subsidies, right?
It's tough to do mechanically, I'm told. I'm in favor of a tax provision, an above-the-line tax provision that would either provide for either a deduction or a credit directly to people. Apparently that might not be able to be done here within short order, such that when people file their taxes here in a few weeks or months, they can get it. But maybe that's a longer-term solution to make health care a little more affordable. But what the Senate's cooking up right now is a good bipartisan solution that hopefully passes the Senate, comes back to the House and passes, and one the president will be proud to sign.
You know what else we heard him say was have some flexibility on the Hyde Amendment. That raised some eyebrows. I'm wondering what you're hearing off the air from your Republican colleagues on that and how much of a sticking point that's going to be.
I think the best path to 60 votes in the Senate and 218 in the House is just have the status quo on Hyde. Hyde has applied to these tax credits in one way for the last 3 years. Let's have it apply the same way. No more, no less. So no one group can claim some sort of victory or feign defeat. Have the status quo on Hyde. I think that's the best way to move forward on these credits.
All right, so here we are, beginning of January, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen by the end of the month, including we've got a funding deadline to manage. How quickly can this process work with Obamacare subsidies to get through the Senate? We already went over the cliff, so it's just a matter of time at this point. How long might people on Long Island have to wait?
Yeah, deadlines seem to be a good thing, I think, in this town. I'm here 3 years. At first, I used to get a little anxious over these deadlines, but these deadlines catalyze meetings, they catalyze actions, they ensure that we make progress on things. So on the appropriations bills, we have 9 appropriations bills we still need to get signed into law. We hope to do so before the end of the year. The Appropriations Committee, with which I'm very familiar, is on track to do that. Of course, we passed our 12 bills out of committee before the fiscal year ended in September, so we can stay on that path, and I'm hopeful that we do.
Okay, so you don't see a shutdown in the cards, or that depending on the outcome of health care, apparently, or these are two isolated events. How long will it take to address Obamacare subsidies? And if you extend the open enrollment to the middle of March, is that enough time?
I think mechanically that is enough time for the 50,000 or so of my constituents who rely on the Affordable Care Act, the 24 million Americans who rely on the Affordable Care Act. I think that is enough time for the government, Congress, to provide some assistance, some much-needed assistance to get the relief to Americans they need. It's all about affordability these days.
Sure.
The Republicans passed a tremendous tax package, which provides great tax relief to middle-class families. No tax on tips, Social Security, overtime. Where I'm from, the state and local tax deduction matters a heck of a lot to us. We did a lot for middle-class families in that tax package. Doing something on health care will be demonstrative, too.
I remember talking to you the morning after the election, the morning after Zohran Mamdani was elected mayor of New York. Now that he is in, how's he doing?
My constituents are anxious about what this administration, the Mamdani administration, will mean for them. Most recently, we heard about seizing private property, or at least putting constraints on it, where private property owners can't sell their properties to each other. They first have to go through this public-private partnership entity before they sell their properties. That's scary to us. This concept of collectivism is just a code word for socialism or Marxism, which hasn't worked anywhere. The Soviet Union, Cuba, Venezuela, it hasn't worked anywhere in the world. It won't work in New York. My constituents in suburban New York are anxious as to what these policies will mean for the rest of the state. Of course, New York City is a great tax-generating entity for the rest of the state. A lot of our state budget is built upon the companies that do business in New York State. If they continue to flee to greener pastures, I fear larger consequences for the rest of the state.
So he hasn't won you over yet. Are you in touch with him? Has he actually reached out to the delegation?
No,
Okay.
I don't expect that anytime soon.
No?
I am in
All right.
touch with a few people from his administration and some public safety
He's
issues.
friends with Donald Trump now. You never know.
Donald Trump will talk to anybody. He's made a name for himself in many ways, including having an open door to many people. And
How about that?
And I wish the both of them well.